Well, hello, guys. This is Katie with Vintage and Vinyl, back with another great reading for you tonight. I am excited to be continuing this book series we've been doing called House of Flesh by Bruner Fischer, or Fischer. I don't know how you say his name, but he is a great writer, and this is a really, really neat book, and I'm so glad all of you guys are tuning in tonight. Now, I have had a little bit of trouble today with my Wi-Fi, of course. It's been pouring buckets, and we've been getting lots of storms, so I hope that the Wi-Fi holds out tonight. So hopefully we don't get any buffering or any issues, so we'll see. I'm also trying this new time. I know there's a little bit of a window between Vintage Rescue Squad, George's premiere, and Tim, and over the years, so I wanted to give this 7 o'clock Eastern slot a try and see if more people are able to join for the reading. So we're going to give that a try as well and see if that works out for everybody. And Sharon's saying that she's got storms here too. Yeah, it's just been a rainy, nasty day out. Hi, Linda. Thanks so much for joining us. Proud American is here. Hello. Kathy's joining us. First Stop Shop. Hello. Daniel, tacky is me. And speaking of Daniel, if you did not get a chance to see Daniel, tacky is me. He had a live Pride celebration yesterday, and I was one of the guests. I was so honored to be on and get to be chatting with Misty, Thrifter, Junker, Vintage Hunter, Sarah, the Traveling Button, and then, of course, Dolores came, and Thrifty Shutterbug. So it was really, really great chatting with everybody, and I'm glad that I got to be on that. So if you've not checked out that Vintage Pride Reseller Celebration, definitely go do so on Daniel's channel, Tacky is Me, and I'm so glad that he invited me to be on. And I see Bob is joining us. Do-Wop Bob. Hi, Bob. How are you doing? And Tia Fain is coming in from Canada. Hello. Vlada has his sauce ready. I'm glad, Bob. Say hello to Vlada for me. And Louie, of course, says hi to Vlada. Hi, Fatbird Finds, Laura and Mary Beth. It was Mary Beth's birthday yesterday. I didn't get a chance to post an Instagram happy birthday, but a big happy birthday to you, Mary Beth, if you're watching. Hope you're having some fun and celebrate all week, because why not? Hi, Vintage Love and Nerd. Welcome. You missed it, so you'll go back and watch it. Good. That is wonderful. Hi, Lynn Dowdy. How are you doing? Hello. And Jewelry by Design, or by Denise. I'm sorry, Denise. Welcome. I'm so glad you are here. Now, this week is pretty special here in Vintage and Vinyl World because it is Record Store Day week, and I don't even know that's really a thing because Record Store Day is one day that's happening this Saturday, but I'm celebrating the whole week leading up to Record Store Day. So my channel is kind of turning into one of those channels like you do at Halloween time when you see ABC Family or one of those networks go all spooky. Well, this week I'm going all vinyl besides the book reading. So I will be having some fun vinyl content for you on Wednesday and on Friday. And I'll be going live from Erasure Records on Saturday sharing my finds. Now, I hope to get Elton John. That's my hope. It's a never-before-released Elton John album that was shelved. It never was released. It was his first album, and it's called Regimental Sergeant Zippo. I'm hoping to get that. That is my one release I hope to get, but of course it's limited, so we'll see if I get that on Saturday. But I'll be going live from Erasure Records regardless, so stay tuned to my Instagram for that. And of course on Wednesday, I'm going to be having show and tell as normal. Kim from Oh My Vintage is joining us to share her owl collection. And then following that, I'll be having my premiere with some really, really fun vinyl. So I'm excited about that. And I see Christine, Side Street Market, is joining us. Hello. Just giving everybody a few minutes to pop in and get ready for the story. Thank you, Loving Nerd. Well, I wore this yesterday on Daniel's show, but I thought it'd be fun to wear it again on my channel because why not? It's just a happy yellow outfit, and I thought it would be fun, and I really like this yellow hat. So we are continuing our read of House of Flesh. Now, if you have missed the last couple of chapters, you can go back and watch them. They are all up on my YouTube channel. This is a book from the 1950s. And what's pretty cool about this is a gold medal book by Fawcett Publishing. And if you know anything about Fawcett and gold medal books, they really did change the publishing industry. And I think that is fascinating. So if you want to do a deep dive on Fawcett Publishing or Gold Medal books, highly recommend doing so. They were some of the first books to be mass produced in paperback, because up until then, pretty much everything was hardcover, except for the pocket books that were carried by soldiers, which were small paperback books. And paperback books were very cheap and accessible for everybody, but they're not as easy to get in the 40s, because everything was pretty much hardback, which was expensive for people. So when paperback came out, it really did change the game for people, and it made reading and stories way more accessible for the general public, which I think is so, so cool. So I'm very excited about reading that. And I'm just checking in on the chat here to see who's all popping in. Let's see who's here. All right. I see Victoria H popping in. Hello, hello. And yes, thank you guys so much. I'm glad you're liking the brooch. It's so fun. So that's very exciting. All right. Wonderful. All right. We got about 10 people here. Fantastic. All right. So House of Flesh, we are in chapter 11. Now, if you've been following the story, it's gotten pretty exciting. We've got a little romance going on with Mrs. Doan, Dr. Doan's wife, and the newcomer to town. Of course, they've been sleeping together a little bit. So that's been quite interesting. And then you've got a whole nother side story going on with all the people in the town. And of course, the family the main character is staying with has been painting some people nude. So it's just been a really interesting book. And of course, I'm excited to see what happens next. There's been some bones that were found that we don't know. Maxine, the dog in the story, has found those bones. So we don't know who they belong to or if they were animal bones, but they were found near the Doan house, which Dr. Doan is a veterinarian, but he's not the best veterinarian in the world. So something's up with that. And I was talking with Bob, Do-Wop Bob, in the chat, and he says that he thinks someone's going to get murdered in the next couple of chapters. And I kind of agree. Something's got to happen soon. So that's exciting. My mom's joining us in the chat. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. Yeah, nasty dogs, too. There's been some interesting things in this book. All right, guys. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into chapter 11, because I want to make sure that we all have time to get over to the other things happening this evening. Don't forget that Vintage Rescue Squad is happening at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight on Misty's channel, Thrifter, Junker, Vintage Hunter. George, the Antique Nomad, our fabulous Uncle Professor George, has a live premiere, which is always great. I learned so much from George. He is just amazing. And then, of course, Tim, and over the years, Josie and Ma Dukes are having a sale at 8, and boy, oh boy, do they have some fabulous vintage glass at great prices. So definitely go check out all of those. I will be hopping from chat to chat, of course. And for now, we're going to get ready to read chapter 11. All right, chapter 11, House of Flesh, right now. Gail held Maxine in her arms. Doan stood beside her, and I can't say I'd ever seen a handsomer couple, if they could be considered a couple. "Why, Harry, of all people," she said brightly. Doan nodded vaguely and shuffled his feet and stuck his hands out of the way into his pants pocket. He had the poise of a 9-year-old boy. I said, "I live here in Norset, remember? I drove up to visit Max." Gail stuck her lovely chin at the red sedan. "I borrowed that car from Augie Random. You remember Augie Random, darling." I made no effort to remember Augie Random. It was doubtful that during our brief marriage I had met all the men from whom she had borrowed cars. I fished out a cigarette and lit it. A lot of rambling went on among us. It was about 4 dogs, particularly the 2 males who were looking up longingly at Maxine without daring to make such a fuss because of the presence of Doan. Maxine stirred restlessly against Gail's splendid bosom. "I think we better take her back," Doan suggested. "Let me have her." "Oh, no, I'll carry him," Gail said. Him, still meaning Maxine. "I've just missed him so." Passionately, she pushed his face into Maxine's fur as Doan opened the gate. Side by side, they walked across the paddock, leaving me there alone. I waited. From where I stood, I wasn't far from the corner kitchen window, and through it, I saw a movement. Layla could see me more easily. She must have known that I was outside, but she didn't come to the window to say hello. I lit a second cigarette from the stub of my first. They were returning. Gail looked out of place in an immense straw picture hat and a tight yellow silk dress. Her head had tilted sideways, and up to Doan she was smiling readily and speaking quickly. He didn't answer. He walked beside her and held himself awkwardly stiff. They should get along well, I thought. She was good at carrying a one-sided conversation. When they were through the paddock gate, Doan veered off to the house, and Gail brought her set and meaningless smile over to me. "Darling, let me have a cigarette," she said. I ran out of mine, and, well, Doan doesn't smoke. I had never known her when she had run out of cigarettes. I held a match for her and said, "Did you stop off at my bungalow?" "I thought I would on the way back, but now I won't have any time because, well, Mrs. Doan invited me for lunch. Anyway, I'm seeing you now, aren't I?" "For lunch," I said. "Mrs. Doan invited you?" "What's so surprising about being invited for lunch?" "Nothing, I suppose. How are you doing with Doan?" "Doing? Are you making any progress with him?" Gail brushed tobacco off her lower lip. "What in the world are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about," I said. "This isn't the first time you've seen him since you met him at the swimming pool." "Harry, how can you imagine such a thing? I drove here to visit Max." "How did you know where she was?" Why?" She paused to think up a good one and flubbed it. "Why, you told me about the phone and the kennels and Max." "I told you I was going to. At the time, I didn't know where I was going to take her. If you'd come up here to see Maxine, you would have stopped by my bungalow to find out where she was. You didn't have to because you'd already talked to Doan." "Harry, even if it were true, it's not, but even if it were, I'm no longer your wife." Gail had me there. And after Sunday night, who was I to cast the first stone? "And when we were married," she went on putantly, "I didn't even cheat on you." "Probably not, though when I was on the road with the team, I used to wonder about all those men you knew." "So it's a crime for a girl to have friends." "You're changing the subject. I'm talking about the present, about you and the small-town nature boy. You've no right to make such a nasty-minded intuition." "No right, perhaps, but I didn't like the circles spreading within the circles. Things were becoming too complicated for a guy who was just here for the summer of restful and unemotional living." "I just want to get the record straight," I muttered. "All right, Harry, the record is that I'm delighted to be rid of you, and I'll have people stop calling me Mrs. Wilde." "Check, Mrs. Hallstrom," I said. That was her maiden name. She brought out the child and me. The kind of infantile squabbling was one of the things that had wrecked our marriage. We stood there, smoking in silence. There was nothing to keep me there, not this woman, nor the house, nor the one in the house either. But I stayed, and suddenly she smiled. "Let's remain good friends, shall we, darling?" she said. You couldn't stay mad at Gail. She never let a quarrel stretch out for more than a few minutes, not even with an ex-husband. "Sure," I said. Layla Doan came out on the porch in her gingham dress. All I got from her was a vague nod. She could hardly have thrown her arms around my neck, but she could have spread more than that with propriety. "Lunch is ready, Mrs. Wilde," she said. Gail stepped down her cigarette. "Goodbye, darling." She kissed my chin to demonstrate a renewal of friendliness, then walked rather gingerly over the uneven ground on her heels that were too high. Her little hips swayed and swayed. Layla waited on the front porch. For a moment they stood together, and by contrast, Layla may have looked drab and almost unattractive, but I wouldn't know because my reaction to her was now tied with the memory of her bungalow by firelight. I walked home by way of road. At 6 o'clock, I was peeling potatoes to go with steak when the phone rang. I didn't at once recognize the voice that said impassively, "Mr. Wilde?" "Yes, who's this?" "Miss Doan." That voice, without a face and a body to go with it, was utterly without personality. But why was she phoning? She herself had pointed out the risk of being overheard on a party wire. Yes, I said cautiously. Mrs. Wilde left a message. You know that she was here to see her dog. I know. She asked me to tell you that she decided to drive back to New York. It didn't make sense. Gail made it clear that she herself would stop off at the bungalow. Anyway, she herself couldn't have called from the Doan house. Is she still there? I asked. No, they left an hour ago. My husband has some business in New York. He had intended to go by train this afternoon, but he decided to leave a little later and save fare by taking a lift with her. So I had made nasty-minded intuitions, but this was all right with me. In fact, it was fine because what Layla had phoned to tell me was that she would be alone all night. They wouldn't reach New York until 9 or 10, and if conceivably he wanted to return immediately, there would be no train until the next morning. I see, I said. Thanks for that book you loaned me, she said. I'm going to read it tonight. That meant that this time she wanted me to come to her. I'm sure you'll find it an exciting book, Mrs. Doan. Goodbye. Goodbye, Mr. Wilde. I hung up and looked at my wristwatch. 12 minutes after 6. It wouldn't be completely dark until 9, say 9:15 to play it safe. 3 hours. All right, guys, that is it for this chapter. And I think there is some fun going on. I really, really do think that Dr. Doan, Mr. Doan, is hooking up with the ex. I think that's what's happening. And then Layla and our main character, Mr. Wilde, Harry, is hooking up. So I think there's going to be some interesting things there. And I want to know about that dog, because I don't think that dog's being very well taken care of. Let's see who's in the chat. I see Bama Pickin and Grennan. Welcome, welcome. I see Cindy J joined us. Hello, Cindy. Hi, Proud American. Again, thanks for joining. And Jeannie, Chicago lady. Hello, hello. Yeah, small town nature boy. That I thought was a great line from this book. All those ex-wives and dogs. Yeah, it does get very confusing, Tia Fane. There's a lot of different people. Yeah, the party line. The party line. Someone's got to know something in this town. And in a small town, what tends to happen is there tends to be a lot of drama and gossip and chatter. So I think that this is going to get out at some point. Somebody's got to figure this out. Somebody's listening to the party line. Hi, Nancy. How are you doing? I hope you're feeling better. We're all thinking about you. Nebby Pal is joining. Oh, thanks, Nebby. I'm glad. Yes, sauce is cooking. That's right, Bob. My grandmother had a party line in the 70s. She used to eavesdrop on her neighbors. You know what? That's kind of free entertainment. I thought about that the other day and how fun it would have been to listen in on the party line, and just because you didn't even need TV or radio. I mean, that's just all fun in and of itself, I think. Of course, you know, eavesdropping, I'm sure, was frowned upon, but I just think that sounds fun. Yes, call the call the dog, folks. Yeah, I think that dog's not being well taken care of. Let's see. Your mom had a party line too. Yeah, yes, Proud American. I'm sure I don't know if they had the ASPCA then, but I think that they definitely need to call and report that veterinarian, because I don't think he's very good. Well, guys, this was it for House of Flesh this week. Stay tuned for some fun on my channel this week. Don't forget that I'll be having show and tell. That's 9:30 Eastern on my channel. Of course, that's going to be a lot of fun because Kim from Oh My Vintage will be on sharing her owl collection. And then, of course, I'm going to be having some more fun later, because after that, I'll be having my premiere of some awesome 1950s vinyl, some really cool original presses. So I'll be sharing that in celebration of Record Store Day. So definitely going to turn my channel into a whole week of vinyl fun for Record Store Day. So I'm excited about that. Oh, you're welcome, Daniel. I'm so glad. Nebby, hold the glass to the neighbor's wall. You know, that does work in hotel rooms. You know, if you hear fighting and things, as kids, we used to put the glass up to the walls to hear what was going on. I actually managed to carefully sit up on a chair for about 15 minutes today. Oh, that's good news, Nancy. That is progress. That is really, really good progress, Nancy. I'm thinking about you, and we all are in the vintage community here. Now, don't forget a couple of things happening later this evening. George, the Antique Nomad, is having his premiere at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Misty, Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter, Michael Todd, and two new folks from Instagram. Well, they're not new to Instagram, but they're new to our YouTube community. We'll be joining them on Vintage Rescue Squad. So that's going to be very exciting. And then, of course, Tim over the years is having his sale at 8 o'clock with Josie and Ma Dukes. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of great glass and vintage for sale. So go support everybody that you can tonight. I know there's a lot happening, but you can do split screens or, stay on one thing for a while and then flip to something else. I try to make my rounds. I'm not always good at it, but I try. So yes, Nancy, take care. I hope you get to feeling better. We're all thinking about you. And of course, I'll see you for some other fun vintage content this week. And before my next video, I'll be catching you on Instagram at vintage_and_vinyl. And as always, I hope you will stay in, stay safe, and binge YouTube. Bye-bye now.